بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا صاحبي السجن أما أحدكما فيسقي ربه خمرا وأما الآخر فيصلب فتأكل الطير من رأسه قضي الأمر الذي فيه تستفتيان وقال للذي ظن أنه ناج منهما اذكرني عند ربك فأنساه الشيطان ذكر ربه فلبث في السجن بضع سنين صدق الله العظيم. Respected brothers and my dear friends, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes mention regarding the interpretation that Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam gives the two companions. So he says, Ya sahibai sijni, O my two prison companions, Amma ahadukuma fayasqi rabbahu khamra. As for one of you, he will serve wine to his master. Wa amma al-akharu fayuslabu fata'kulu at-tayru min ra'sih. Wa amma al-akharu, as for the other, fayuslabu, he will be crucified. Fata'kulu at-tayru min ra'sih, and the birds will eat from his head. Qudi al-amr, the decision has been passed, the decision has been made. Fi tastaftiyan, qudi al-amr alladhi fi tastaftiyan, the decision has been made regarding the matter you have inquired from me. So, as we come along the story, Yusuf alayhi salatu has just completed his thought-provoking and inspiring advices and crucial guidances to these two people that came to see him. And the Quran has taken roughly a side to explain his advices. It shows that they were very brief, yet precise and concise. Yusuf ﷺ as a Nabi gave a very short advice and guidance, but it was very precise. And some Mufassirin say that at the beginning of the ayat where it says, قَالَ لَا يَأْتِيكُمَا طَعَامٌ تُرْزَقَانِ إِلَّا نَبَّأْتُكُمَا. Some Mufassirin give the tarjuma and the tafsir that Yusuf ﷺ said to them that I will explain to you, I will tell you the foods that come to show that the ilm that he gets is nubuwwat. And others say that قَالَ لَا يَأْتِيكُمَا طَعَامٌ, Yusuf ﷺ was saying, لَا يَأْتِيكُمَا طَعَامٌ, your food will not come to you. إِلَّا نَبَّأْتُكُمَا بِتَعْوِيلِهِ, but before that I will give you the interpretation of the dreams. Meaning the food that was going to come to them was just around the corner. So before the food comes, meaning in this short span of time, I will give you some small naseed, and then before the food comes, I will interpret the dreams. So ulama deduce from here, and they say that if somebody comes to you for some advice, or somebody comes to you for some need, they got an issue, and you feel, and you realize there's a need to take in some advice that will help you. He comes to you in regards to some business, but you know that if you tell him something about his son, it will help him. So you think, let me tuck this in. Ulama say that it is absolutely perfect to tuck it in. It is good because wadhakkir, just like is mentioned in the Quran ayat today in Isha, wadhakkir, give nasiyat fa inna dhikratan for mu'minin. It helps the believers. So wherever you see there's a opportunity, but make sure that it's precise, it's concise, and you get to the crucial moments. The crucial point that you want to say, you pass it on to him and don't lengthen it. Because if you go on with a story, with advice that are so long, it will bore him. He will get bored and he will not absorb what you've said to him. But if you say to him something precise, then because he is eager and he's hopeful that you will listen, you will give him what he's come for, you will fulfill his needs, then he will listen to what you've got to say, and at the same time he will absorb it. And sometimes we see that somebody comes for a need, and then we start talking about something, and we go on so long that the person gets bored and starts to think, what's this guy talking about? I have come for this issue and he's going on and on about that issue. So this is one piece of advice to us. So anyway, Yusuf starts to interpret the dream, and he tells he sought to interpret in a very wise manner. How is it wise? That number one, he does not repeat the dream. He does not say that you saw this dream and this is its interpretation, and you saw this dream and this is interpretation. Because both the interpretations that he was going to give, one was a very pleasant interpretation and the other was very not pleasant. It was a bit unpleasant, the dreams that they saw. So rather than telling them clearly that you're going to become the wine bearer and you're going to be crucified, this will, whatever life he's got left will kill him. Whatever he's got left in him, it will kill him. The rest of the days that he's going to live, even them will be like death to him. So Yusuf ﷺ, in a very vague manner, he said, as for one of you, he will serve wine to his master. Now each of them knew that one saw himself, that he was squeezing the juice out of grapes. And if you remember, I told you that he saw a dream that 3 bunches came out. Mufassirin said, Yusuf said, the 3 bunches, what do the 3 bunches mean? The 3 bunches implied towards the fact that after 3 days, after 3 days he will be released. So this is the science of dreams. The 3 bunches, what could it mean? But in that aspect, 3 bunches meant 3 days. So Yusuf said to him that as for one of you, he will serve wine to his master, meaning he will come out of this jail in 3 days and he will be reinstated, he will be restored back into his position, he will come out innocent, and he will start doing khidmat of the king again. And then he went on to say that as for the other, again he did not mention who it is. He will be crucified and birds will eat from his head. Because the others saw that he was carrying a basket of bread over his head and birds were eating from it. So Yusuf took the interpretation that the food meant that his head will be eaten from. And how will he be eaten? He will be crucified, and once he gets crucified, and it will be a slow death, painful death. After that, his body will be left to show and to give awareness and to warn the rest of the people that if any of you ever think of doing this, then be warned. The king will not tolerate. So he will be crucified and he will be hung, and once he dies, his body will be left there. And when he's left there, it's a lifeless body, the birds will take food from it. They will come and they will start pecking on his head, and slowly will eat from his head. So anyway, Yusuf mentioned the interpretation, but in a very vague manner, as not to cause more distress. And that's what Hazrat Masjid mentioned under this ayat, and he deduces that whenever there's a situation where the listener, where the recipient is going to get some news of pain, is going to get some news of distress, then as a person, you should be very sensitive. And you should take that in, you should acknowledge that. And you should try to tone down, and you should try to make it in such a way that you do not create any additional pain to the person. And this happens sometimes, death happens in a family. So one is just say to the person, okay, your father's passed away. This is going to cause much more grief to you. And one is nice, he said, okay, we've all come in this world, and one day we've all got to leave. And nobody's here forever. We've all got to go from this world. And then slowly you take it. You go to a surgery, and a person's got cancer. Then there's 2 ways of saying it. One is you say straight to your face, cancer. And one is we suspect there's some illnesses. And it could possibly be, but there could be a chance that it's not that. But we will try our best and we're going to take further scans. But if you say from the beginning, cancer equals cancel, cancer is cancel, he's going to go home, and even if he does not have cancer, he's going to lose sleep for the rest of his life, or for the rest of the time until he gets told that he does have it. And if he does have it, then from now his death has started. He will no longer be able to enjoy life. And this is a lesson for us. As Rasulullah said, that in the hadith, that أَكْثِرُ ذِكْرَ هَذِمِ اللَّذَّاتِ, that ponder upon the break of passions. Ponder upon this. And what is it? Al-Maut. When a person ponders upon death, daily, weekly, ponders upon death, that one day I'm going to die, one day I have to see my Allah, one day I have to go in the grave, one day my body will be eaten up, one day my body will rot. Then this will create what inside him? The thought of hereafter. And when a person thinks of hereafter, then the passions and the desire of this world start to fade away. Because a person cannot engross and fulfill life in desire whilst not being in the right mind frame. That's why those people who are distressed, they will not have an enjoyable meal. They will not go out to a cinema. They will come to a masjid. Those people who have something afflicted on them, who are in some pain, you will not see them happy running around. Why? At the back of their mind, they've got this. That's why Rasulullah said, that ponder upon death. When a person ponders upon death, then when death is in front of you, then to fulfill lazat, especially haram lazat, will become very difficult. You think, no, how can I fulfill this? So anyway, Hazrat Shaitan mentions that whenever you have to disclose something which is not very pleasant, then say it in the best possible manner and lower the tone and try to make it so it does not cause additional discomfort. So Yusuf gives a plain interpretation to reduce the impact on the listeners, and he goes on to tell them that these are the interpretations, and he says in a very compassionate manner that after 3 days, and this is so, it is what happened, that after 3 days the wine bearer, he was called and he was proven innocent and he was not guilty and he was reinstated, and 3 days later the other person was crucified and the birds started to eat. Some say that at this junction, when Yusuf gave the interpretation, Abdullah ibn Masud says that when Yusuf gave the interpretation, they said, "We've not seen no dream. We were joking." So when Yusuf said the interpretation, most probably the baker, the person who put the poison in the bread, realized that means I'm going to get crucified. So he said, "We were joking." And what he meant was that either if he was joking, that when they entered the jail, Yusuf was known for giving interpretation of dreams and he was an expert. So according to their minds, according to their state, they thought, okay, let's make up a dream and let's go to man, let's see if we can interpret it. So both of them made up a dream and they came. And they said, "I have seen this and I have seen this." But when they said this to Yusuf that we were only joking, Yusuf said, "Qudiyal amru alladhi fihi tastaftiyan," that the decision has been passed regarding the matter you have inquired about. That whether you are joking or whether you are pretending or whether you are serious, now that you've told me the dream and now that the words have left my tongue, now that the words have left the Nabi's tongue, it's finished. It's going to happen. Qudiyal amr. It's going to happen. That's why some say that sometimes when Anbiya they say something, it happens, it's finished. Once Rasulullah was sat to eat, or somebody was sat eating, and there's a person besides Rasulullah and he's eating with the left hand. And Rasulullah said to him that eat with the right hand. And out of ego, out of hypocrisy, he said, "I can't eat with my right hand." So he remained eating with the left hand. Rasulullah said, "You will never eat with the right hand." And it so happened that the words had to leave Rasulullah's mouth, and after that, whether he tried or not, his hand would not reach his mouth. So when a Nabi says something, it's the end of. And that's why even Ahlullah, those are close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sometimes if you harm them, if you do something and they say something, it will happen. That's why Rasulullah says, "Rubba ash'atha akbara law aqsama ala Allah la barra." There are some people on the face of this earth that might have disheveled hair, might be in a dusty attire. People might not take much heed towards them. People will not be interested in them. But their connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so great that law aqsama ala Allah, if they were to say qasam, by Allah, this will happen, Allah will make sure it happens. Allah will fulfill their qasam. And Ahlullah amongst them, that if something was to escape their tongue, this could be the end of you. And that's why it's mentioned about a person by the name of Rabi'a ibn Umayyah bin Khalaf, Umayyah bin Khalaf's son, Rabi'a. It's mentioned about him that in the time of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he came to Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu and he said that I saw a dream that I was walking through a very nice field, greenery and a garden and so what. And then I went into a barren piece of land. And when I woke up, I saw myself in that barren piece of land. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu said, "If you are saying the truth about this dream, then that means that you will enter the fold of Islam, but then you will leave Islam." He said, "I was joking." Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu said, "Qudi al-amr. You've asked me, now it's happened." And they say in the time of Umar radiallahu anhu, this Rabi'a bin Umayyah bin Khalaf, he had a habit of drinking alcohol. And Umar radiallahu anhu was reprimanding him, and he was going to get caught and or lashed, whatever is going to happen. So when the time came, then he went away from Medina, and he rejected Islam because he did not permit him to drink alcohol, and he became amongst the Christians, and he died on the stake. So from this we realize that sometimes some people lie, and lying itself is a kabira guna. But to lie in a dream is even more severe. Because when you say you've seen something in a dream, who's the being that showed you that in the dream? Who showed you that dream? One is you see a person stealing something. Who's seen it? You have seen it yourself physically. And one is you are sleeping and you see something. Who showed you that? Who showed you that? Allah Azza wa Jalla has shown. If you see something in your dream, who's showing it to you? Allah. Now if you wake up and you are lying, then who are you lying upon? You're lying upon Allah Azza wa Jalla. That's why to lie about a dream. And why do people lie about dreams? To increase their fame. That I saw Fulana in a dream. I saw this happening. Or to intimidate the enemies. Okay, you're doing this about me. I had a dream that you had an accident. And like I didn't have no dream. Or to gain something in life. That goes to a rich person and says, I had a dream that we are very good friends and X, Y, and Z, to gain something. And this is why people lie. And when a person lies, you don't realize that this year, very great sin. It's a kabira guna. So anyway, so after when the baker realized that I'm going to get crucified, some say that he uttered that we were joking. Yusuf said, it's done now, the matter's done, it's going to happen as I've said. Anyway, Yusuf realized and he knew that out of the two, one is going to become innocent and the other. So he said, وَقَالِ الَّذِي ظَنَّ أَنَّهُ نَاجٍ وَقَالِ الَّذِي ظَنَّ. And Yusuf told the one who he anticipated, who expected would be free. And no, Najin means will be freed. وَذْكُرْنِي إِنْدَ رَبِّكَ. That mention me by your master. Meaning mention me because you're going to go back to the king. You're going to go back as a wine server and a bearer for the king. You're going to be passing the wine to him. So make mention of me. وَذْكُرْنِي إِنْدَ رَبِّكَ. That there's a person in jail by the name of Yusuf. And he has been put in jail. He's innocent. False accusations on him. So that the king might look into my case and I might get exonerated and I might get freed and I will be taken out. فَأَنْسَاهُ الشَّيْطَانُ الشَّيْطَانُ. However, shaitan caused him to forget. فَأَنْسَاهُ الشَّيْطَانُ ذِكْرَ رَبِّهِ. However, shaitan caused him to forget mentioning Yusuf by his master. فَلَبِثَ فِي السِّجْنِ بِضْعَ سِنِينَ. Hence Yusuf remained in prison for a few more years. So once Yusuf interpreted the dreams and he got a moment where the baker had moved off, he went onto a side and he told the person that saw the dream of squeezing the grapes that time's going to come that you're going to be freed. You, the person that's going to be freed, and you're going to be in the palace and you're going to be in luxuries and you're going to have a very good time and your life is going to be up there again. But as companions, as friends, as the connection we've had, some say that before he left the jail, he asked Yusuf, Ma hajatuk, do you have any needs? So on this he said this. And some say that he whispered in his ear, when you go back to the king, then when you have a free time, when you have a free moment where there's no one there, just mention to him, slip it in, that there's one person called Yusuf in jail, and I think he's a very good person. Joby, whatever you've seen about me, mention it and tell him that he has been unfairly imprisoned and look into his case. So anyway, after 3 days, both the inmates were called out and the person that was serving the wine was again reinstated and the thing was hanged. Ulama say that shaitan made the person, the nisbat, the connection of forgetfulness is towards shaitan. فَأَنْسَاهُ shaitan. Shaitan made him forget. How does shaitan make people forget? Shaitan makes people forget their duties and their responsibilities by infiltrating and putting thoughts and doubts in a mind. So a person, it happens so sometimes, you take out our phone to do something, we're about to ring somebody, and another 10 thoughts comes and then we put the phone away, and later we realize I had to ring that person. And we remember. How do we forget? Because other thoughts and other doubts overcome. So he says, shaitan in the same way, when this person left and he had this message in his mind, that I have to pass on this message for my dear friend, my companion, he's been so good to me. Before he could do that, shaitan put so many other doubts and khiyalats in his mind that he totally forgot. And he couldn't tell the king, and it so happened that after some years, 7 years, the king saw a dream. And that's when he asked, and that's when he remembered, oh, wait a minute, I know somebody in jail who... So 7 years passed. Allama Shabi Ahmad Uthmani says that the heart and the mind of the inmate who was innocent got scattered with thoughts and khiyalats by shaitan, and he forgot. But ultimately it was Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who made him forget. And the wisdom behind this was that Yusuf alayhi salatu was salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the tarbiyat of the Anbiya by himself. Anbiya's tarbiyat is done by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and all the prophets, that they go through trials and they go through all these tests. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts them through a test to make their heart strong, to make them firm. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was putting him through a test now, that he should have it as a Nabi to ask somebody a favor. Me asking you for a favor, it's absolutely permissible. At the time of difficulty, to ask somebody for a favor is absolutely permissible. That means that our sight is on him and our sight is on him. But for a Nabi, his sight should ultimately and always be on Allah Azza wa Jal, not on makhluk. And at that moment, at Yusuf said that Uzkurni inda Rabbik, that mention my name in front of the king. So at that moment, his sight turned from Allah to, which is absolutely permissible, but for a Nabi, it doesn't befit him. For a Siddiq, it doesn't befit, although it's permissible. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was now nurturing him and was doing his tarbiyat. So what happened? In return for this comment, فَلَبِثَ فِي السِّجْنِ بِضْعَ سِنِينَ, he stayed for 7 years. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is silently trying to tell him that when your brothers plotted against you and they were going to kill you, who helped you at that moment? Who listened to your dua at that moment? Who listened to you? Allah Azza wa Jalla. You were flung in the well. That could have been end of you. Who took you out of the well? Allah Azza wa Jalla. Then you were transferred from the well, from Canaan to Misr in the palace. Who gave you this? Who was it? Allah Azza wa Jalla. Then Zuleika tried to ploy and try to guide against you. Who saved you and protected you? And who kept your chastity? Allah Azza wa Jalla. Then in the jail, who taught you how to interpret dreams? Allah Azza wa Jalla. So when you want to leave and when you want freedom and when you want liberty, who should your eyesight go to? Allah Azza wa Jalla. So Anbiya said, so because of this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increased the limit to 7 years more, and Yusuf ended up staying in jail for 12 years, and this was tabiyatan. Because later on, he had to do so much. As a Nabi, he has to do so much tabligh to strengthen and to keep them firm. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sometimes tests them, and then he does the tarbiyat in this way. So anyway, after that, فَلَبِثَ فِي السِّجْنِ بِضْعَ سِنِينَ, he stayed in the jail for some further years. And in Arabic, bid'ah means a number between 3 and 9, indefinite. It could be any. Some Mufassirin say over here it means 7. So he stayed another 7. Some say he already had stayed 5 years, and then he had to stay another additional 7, which ended up 12 years. And then after that, this king saw the dream. From there he was taken out and he was freed. So inshallah we will carry on that next week. Subhanallah.